This video is going to have all the information you need to know on the next Apathy album. Originally, I wanted to have it done by the end of this week, but I had to re-record some vocal tracks and that's going to push it forward. I'm hoping to release it by the end of next week, which should be plenty of time to finish up what's left of the album. So the title is Return, and it marks both my return from absence. It's been over a year since the last Apathy album, and I haven't really been active over the past couple of months anyway, in terms of releasing videos. In terms of the material for the album, it also marks a return to the style that I presented on the original demo. My goal with Apathy was always to take black metal and incorporate elements from other music that I like, namely old school, melodic stuff like Iron Maiden. Over time, I started to experiment with other sounds like blues, folk, and progressive elements. I've picked up a lot of songwriting techniques, especially working with rhythms, which I think were quite poor on the demo, and Return is basically my way of taking what I know now and going back to create the album that I envisioned when I started out. In a lot of ways, it's a very similar album to the demo. There's 7 songs, it runs about 56 minutes, so it's the longest album I've released. The track list has been out on both my Facebook page and it'll be in the description below. And you'll see it contains a blend of short, intermediate, and long songs, as I've always liked to have a variety of music on my albums. It makes it easier to listen to the album from start to finish when all the songs don't sound the same, and that's really my preferred method of listening to music, so that's the way I want to present it as well. There's going to be fast and heavy songs, slower and melodic ones, different vocal styles, guitar solos, and leads all around, so it's a pretty big album. You'll see the second track, Lair, is the longest song I've ever written. It's a little over 16 minutes, which beats the previous record of 14 minutes long by Through the Inferno from Origins. So overall, I've enjoyed the writing, recording, even mixing this album. It hasn't been as much of a chore as some of the previous ones, and it's definitely the best sounding album that I've worked on so far. I've vastly improved the drum sound. I think the snare is a lot tighter and it's closer to emulating a classic 70s Zeppelin sound, which is, I think is the greatest drum sound ever. And taking some notes from Fenriz of Darkthrone, I did make sure that the bass drum sounds like a bass drum. It's deep and heavy. I finally switched to double tracking my rhythm guitars to a certain degree, although it's still not hard panned all the way to the side like you typically hear with metal mixes. I still try to do a sort of live technique when I produce the album, like switching from double rhythms during verses to a single rhythm and a lead, so it sounds like a live performance where you have 2 guitarists. But it's not the single opposing guitar and bass that I had on all the previous albums from before, so you are going to have double track rhythms and sort of beefier riffs, except during lead parts where you get a trade-off. Speaking of which, the bass is still going to be an integral part of this album, weaving harmonies together, so I think overall it's still going to sound like an Apathy album, even though the production is a little bit better. Now, onto the cover. I know it doesn't really look like a black metal cover, but I will do some explaining on what it actually means. The logo is a slightly redesigned version of the Rebirth logo. Basically, the T has been pulled out, and some of the other features have been sharpened down. Normally, I prefer very plain cover albums, and the original idea I had for this one was a minimalist white background, but I've already done that for Rebirth, so I opted for a slightly different design. There's 2 pieces at the middle of the cover. One is a crescent moon, referring to the song Crescent, and a red rose referring to the song Thorns. The reason I chose these symbols are not necessarily because they're the best songs on the album or any of that sort, but it's actually a tribute to an old friend of mine, Nate Dickinson, who passed away at the beginning of this year. He was responsible for a lot of my interest in metal, and the cover symbolizes the letters C and R, which are the initials of his latest band, Cladonia Rangafrina. As for the pink background, it might remind you of something else, but I can assure you that the music on Return is still very much extreme black metal. I tried out several different colors, and pink clouds were really the only one that complemented the golden crescent moon and the red rose, which is eventually why I ended up sticking with it. So I'm going to finish this off with a sample from the new album. This is the intro from the first track, which is the song Unbegotten.
Time obscures the memories of the world. Hear my call, O Master. The worst is yet to come. I conjure up my final words. Release the blood within. Crescent.